The Grand Assembly Hall on Viridia Prime stood as a testament to the Galactic Council's power and reach. A vast amphitheater whose crystalline dome captured and refracted the light of two suns, casting prismatic patterns across the tiered seating that accommodated dozens of species from across known space. Today, the hall hummed with the quiet anticipation that preceded all significant council sessions. The air filled with the soft clicks, whistles, and subvocal communications of the gathered representatives. Ziktox observed it all from his designated station in the xenological recorder's booth. His epidermis, currently a calm professional blue, absorbed and processed the emotional undercurrents in the chamber. As the Council's senior xenological recorder, he took his responsibility seriously, especially today. The human delegation had arrived 7 cycles ago as the newest council members, and their presence still sent ripples of unease through the established order. "Their posture has changed," whispered Vorax, his colleague whose 6 eye stalks swiveled independently to track the humans entering from the eastern portal. More rigid than yesterday's session. Zik's skin flickered briefly to acknowledgement purple before settling back to blue. The Sector 7 dispute is personal for them. They've claimed protectorate status over the Nakari. Pre-spaceflight civilizations make poor bargaining chips, Vorax replied, 3 eye stalks now fixed on Representative Grow of the Haxan Empire, whose chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the hall lights as he took his position. The Haxans know this. The human delegation moved with practiced precision to their assigned platform. Ambassador Dana Powell led. Her silver-streaked hair pulled back in what Zik had learned was a traditional Earth diplomatic style. Commander Jack Foster flanked her right, his military posture unmistakable, even to non-human observers. Dr. Lowe, the cultural specialist, completed the trio, her dark eyes already scanning the chamber, cataloging reactions. Zik activated his neural recorder, the device syncing with his biorhythms. Xenological notation, Cycle 407, Rotation 219. Human delegation appears alert but contained. Commander Foster's micro-expressions indicate elevated stress responses compared to baseline established during trade negotiations last rotation. High Counselor Dreza's amplified voice echoed across the chamber. This council session will address the dispute regarding resource extraction rights in Sector 7, specifically the Nakari home system. Representative Grow of the Haxan Empire has requested formal recognition of mining claims. Ambassador Powell stepped forward, her voice clear and measured. The Council will recall that Earth registered protectorate status over the Nakari system 3 cycles ago, under Treaty 5924, subsection 12, regarding pre-spaceflight civilizations. Any extraction activities require Earth's consent and environmental impact assessment. Grow's mandibles clicked dismissively. The Haxan Empire acknowledges Earth's registered interest, but finds it superseded by prior claim established through historical charts dating to pre-Council exploration. Our extraction vessels are already operational in the system's outer belt. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Zik noted the sudden stillness in Commander Foster's posture, a predator's alertness that contradicted the diplomatic setting. Ambassador Powell's expression remained neutral. The Council's own records confirm no prior Haxan claim to Sector 7. We request immediate cessation of unauthorized extraction activities. The humans misunderstand the weight of their requests, Grow responded, his voice carrying the characteristic harmonic overlay of Haxan dominance display. The Empire's needs are not subject to newcomer protocols or Earth's self-appointed guardianship of primitives. Commander Foster stepped forward, and Zik's skin rippled a dark purple as he registered the shift in the human's demeanor. Something fundamental had changed. "Representative Grow," Foster said, his voice deceptively soft. "Perhaps the Haxan Empire misunderstands the nature of Earth's request. Allow me to clarify." The chamber quieted. Zik leaned forward, adjusting his recorders. Humanity spent most of its history fighting itself, Foster continued, his eyes never leaving Grow. Our planet's extreme environment produced a species that excels at warfare, resource competition, and threat elimination. We learned diplomacy not from philosophical ideals, but as a practical alternative to mutual destruction. Zick's epidermis pulsed with analytical interest. He'd reviewed Earth's historical archives, but hearing their evolutionary psychology articulated so bluntly in council chambers was unprecedented. What the ambassador has presented is not a request, Foster said, his voice now carrying a predatory edge that transcended translation barriers. It is a courtesy notification. Earth's protectorate status over the Nakari is non-negotiable. Your vessels have 24 standard hours to withdraw before we consider them hostile entities, encroaching on protected space. Silence fell across the chamber, absolute and heavy. Zick's skin flickered rapidly between analytical purple and alarmed yellow. In 7 cycles of observing humans, he had never witnessed this transformation, this shedding of diplomatic veneer to reveal the apex predator beneath. Is this a threat, Commander? Grow's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation that his translator smoothed from his voice. Threats are unnecessary between parties who understand each other, Foster replied. I'm simply informing you that what you currently perceive as Earth's polite mode is a choice we make, not a limitation we suffer. The Haxan Empire would be wise to respect that distinction. High Counselor Dreza's resonator plates vibrated with tension. This council does not recognize ultimatums. Commander Foster, Ambassador Powell, please clarify Earth's position within established protocols. Powell stepped forward again, seamlessly reclaiming the diplomatic space. The High Counselor is correct, and Earth apologizes for any perception of impropriety. We propose a compromise. Limited extraction rights in the system's outer reaches with mandatory environmental safeguards, and profit sharing with a Nakari Development Fund to be established under Council oversight. Zick watched the interplay with fascination. Powell had neither contradicted nor apologized for Foster's statement, merely reframed it within acceptable parameters while maintaining the core message. The Haxan Empire rejects such limitations, Grow responded, but Zick detected hesitation in his harmonic undertones. Our sovereign right to resource acquisition predates council membership. Before Powell could respond, a junior recorder rushed to Zick's station, pressing a data crystal into his hand. Urgent update for the xenological archives, the young Melosian whispered, their respiratory filaments quivering with excitement. Zick inserted the crystal into his console, and a holographic display materialized before him. His skin flashed bright yellow in surprise before he could control his reaction. The display showed tactical positioning data. 53 Earth warships had surrounded the Haxan extraction fleet in Sector 7, maintaining silent running protocols that had concealed their presence until now. Vorax, Zick whispered. The Council registration lists only 20 human military vessels in total. Vorax's eye stalks curved into the configuration of profound reassessment. They've been building in secret, or hiding their true capabilities all along. The data crystal's contents automatically projected onto the Council's main display. Gasps and exclamations in a dozen languages filled the chamber as representatives processed what they were seeing. The Haxan delegation huddled in urgent consultation, their exoskeletons clicking rapidly. High Counselor Dreza's voice cut through the commotion. Ambassador Powell, this council requires an immediate explanation. Earth's military registration specifically declared 20 vessels of destructor class. This display shows more than double that number. Powell nodded calmly. High Counselor, Earth acknowledges the discrepancy and offers clarification. Treaty 7302, paragraph 83, permits member worlds to maintain defensive capabilities proportionate to perceived threats. The vessels surrounding the Haxan extraction fleet are designated as Protectorate class, a distinction that places them under security exemptions, rather than standard military registration. A semantic deception, Grove's voice rose to the Haxan battle pitch. The Council must censure Earth for deliberate military concealment. Not concealment, Representative Grove, Powell corrected smoothly. But prudent application of security protocols. Had the Haxan Empire followed proper channels for extraction rights, this situation would never have materialized. Zik's analytical programming went into overdrive, his skin cycling through evaluation colors as he dictated notes. Xenological observation. Humans appear to have developed a nuanced interpretation of Council law that technically permits military expansion while maintaining plausible treaty compliance. Ambassador Powell shows no physiological stress markers, despite revealing a significant tactical deception. Conclusion. Either humans do not register duplicity as a stress trigger, or they genuinely believe in the legitimacy of their legal interpretation. High Counselor Dreza's resonator plates vibrated in the pattern that indicated deep concern. This session is temporarily adjourned. The Council of Strategic Oversight will convene immediately to address this revelation. All parties are instructed to maintain current positions without escalation. We reconvene in 3 rotations. As the chamber erupted in excited discussions, Zik watched the human delegation withdraw, with the same measured composure with which they had arrived. Only now, he noted, the other council species gave them a wider berth. Eyes, sensory organs, and appendages tracking their movement with new wariness. They've been playing a different game all along, Vorax murmured, eye stalks twitching in the pattern of urgent recategorization. No, Zik replied, his epidermis settling into thoughtful teal. They've been playing the same game, just with a rulebook we hadn't fully decoded. The observation annex of the human embassy pulsed with activity as Ambassador Powell, Commander Foster, and Dr. Liu reviewed tactical displays and communication streams. Zik talks, having secured special access through his xenological authority, observed from a recessed alcove, his skin carefully maintained at the neutral gray of official observation. The Haxans have dispatched courier vessels to 3 of their outposts, Foster noted, highlighting trajectories on the holographic display. Likely calling for reinforcements. They won't arrive in time, Powell replied, studying the data. Our fleet has positioning advantage and superior maneuverability, but military confrontation remains our last resort. Dr. Liu manipulated a separate display showing Nakari settlement patterns. The Nakari mythos includes ancient sky guardians, who supposedly protected them from celestial calamities. Their historical records describe objects matching the profile of our observation platforms. Foster raised an eyebrow. You're suggesting we leverage their mythology? I'm suggesting we present ourselves in a context they can process without cultural destruction. Liu clarified. A visible presence that confirms their existing belief structure rather than shattering it. Powell nodded slowly. The Council's non-interference statutes would still apply, but manifesting as figures within their existing cosmology creates a gray area. It's manipulative, but less harmful than allowing Haxan extraction to proceed unchecked. Or revealing our full military capabilities to the Council, Foster added. The 53 ships they've seen are impressive enough. I'd prefer to keep our phase-shift vessels and the Jupiter-class dreadnoughts in reserve. Zik's skin rippled with shock before he could suppress the reaction. The humans had even more ships. The xenological implications were staggering. The Haxans need to understand that Earth's protection of the Nakari isn't negotiable, Powell said firmly. But we also need to maintain our Council standing. Outright aggression would undermine 7 cycles of careful diplomacy. The Haxans only respect strength, Foster countered. They've interpreted our diplomatic approach as weakness. Then we demonstrate strength within diplomatic parameters, Powell replied. Dr. Liu, prepare the Sky Guardian Protocol. Commander, maintain fleet positioning but authorize defensive measures only. I need to prepare for the emergency session. As the human delegation dispersed to their tasks, Zik remained motionless in his observation alcove, recording every detail. The humans operated with a fluidity that contrasted sharply with the formal, often contentious deliberations of the council. They debated openly, considered alternatives, and reached consensus with remarkable efficiency. Most striking to Zik was their comfort with moral ambiguity, navigating between treaty obligations, military necessity, and ethical imperatives with practiced ease. Xenological note, Zik subvocalized to his recorder. Humans demonstrate remarkable cognitive flexibility, simultaneously maintaining multiple strategic frameworks. They appear capable of compartmentalizing contradictory values, preserving peace while preparing for war, respecting council authority while subverting its limitations, protecting a primitive species while manipulating its belief structures. Analyzing what makes us tick, recorder talks? Ambassador Powell's voice startled Zik, his skin flashing embarrassed orange before settling back to professional blue. He hadn't realized she remained in the chamber, or that his subvocalization had been audible. Ambassador, I apologize for the intrusion. My xenological authority permits observation of council members in diplomatic settings. Yes, Powell completed with a smile. I'm familiar with the protocols. Your curiosity is understandable. Humanity remains something of an enigma to the council, despite our 7 cycles of membership. Zik's skin rippled with cautious inquiry. Your military capabilities exceed reported parameters by a significant margin. Many council species will interpret this as deliberate deception. Powell's expression remained composed. We interpreted council military registration requirements in light of our own security needs. The distinction between offensive and defensive capabilities is clearly outlined in Treaty 7302. A creative interpretation, Zik noted, his skin shifting to analytical purple. Creative, but legally sound, Powell replied. Earth has learned that in matters of survival, it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. The Council's bureaucracy moves too slowly to address immediate threats. Like the Haxan extraction vessels? Precisely. Powell gestured to the tactical display. The Haxans calculated that by the time a formal council ruling was issued, their operation would be established as a fait accompli. We simply applied the same principle in our response. Zik's professional training compelled him to press further. Commander Foster's statement about humanity's polite mode being a choice rather than a limitation, was that diplomatic theater or genuine warning? Powell's expression grew serious. That, recorder talks, was perhaps the most honest statement ever made in council chambers. Humanity's history is written in blood and fire. We learned cooperation, not from inherent benevolence, but from the precipice of self-annihilation. Our diplomatic protocols aren't just procedures. They're the thin membrane separating civilization from our more primal instincts. Zik recorded this statement with meticulous care, his epidermis pulsing with the deep indigo of profound insight. And now the Council has glimpsed what lies beneath that membrane. Just a glimpse, Powell corrected. And that may be enough for both the Council and the Haxan Empire to reconsider their assumptions about Earth. I've never seen Representative Grow retreat from a dominance display, Zik admitted. Until today. Powell's smile returned, but with a harder edge. Apex predators recognize each other. Recorder talks. It's a universal constant. As Powell turned to leave, Zik noted her parting words for his official record, his skin settling into thoughtful teal. In 7 cycles of studying humans, this was the first time he'd truly understood the paradox they presented. A species that practiced peace with the full knowledge of war's cost and the capability to wage it with devastating efficiency. The Emergency Council Session 3 rotations later began with an atmosphere of suppressed tension. Zik observed from his recorder's station as representatives filed in, noting the changed patterns of movement. Species that had previously maintained neutral distance from the human delegation now clustered closer to Earth's allies, while those aligned with the Haxan Empire separated themselves more distinctly. Preliminary xenological assessment, he dictated quietly. Council polarization index has increased by 17% since last session. Species with vulnerable homeworlds show particular gravitational shift toward human alignment, suggesting re-evaluation of Earth's potential as a defensive ally, rather than merely a diplomatic partner. Vorax's eye stalks undulated in agreement. The revelation of concealed human military assets has triggered reassessment across the board. The Mavorians have already inquired about joint protection agreements. Before Zik could respond, High Counselor Dreza called the session to order. This emergency convening will address 3 matters of urgent council concern: the Haxan extraction operation in Sector 7, Earth's undisclosed military presence in said sector, and allegations of treaty violations by both parties. Representative Groh stepped forward, his exoskeleton polished to intimidating brilliance. The Haxan Empire maintains its sovereign right to resource acquisition in the unclaimed regions of Sector 7. We reject Earth's unilateral declaration of protectorate status over a primitive species as justification for military encirclement of our peaceful extraction operation. Peaceful extraction that conveniently bypassed Council notification protocols. Ambassador Powell responded calmly. Earth acknowledges deploying defensive assets to protect the Nakari system, in accordance with our registered protectorate responsibilities. High Counselor Dreza's resonator plates vibrated with impatience. The Council requires clarification regarding Earth's military assets. Your registration documents specified 20 vessels of destructor class. Current scans indicate 53 vessels of various classifications in Sector 7 alone. A matter of categorical definition. High Counselor, Powell explained. The 20 registered destructor-class vessels represent Earth's contribution to Common Council defense initiatives. The additional vessels are classified as Protectorate-specific assets under Treaty 7-302, Paragraph 83, which permits proportional defensive capabilities for the protection of vulnerable member interests. A convenient interpretation. Groh's mandibles clicked rapidly. One that undermines the transparency foundation of Council membership, as does launching extraction operations without proper notification, Powell countered. Earth prioritizes the protection of pre-spaceflight civilizations, as is our right and obligation under Treaty 5924. Zik watched the diplomatic volley with professional interest, noting how both sides marshaled legal justifications for what were essentially power plays. The Council's elaborate legal framework, designed to constrain the raw exercise of power, was being wielded as a weapon itself. The chamber's atmosphere shifted abruptly as a junior aide rushed to deliver a data crystal to High Counselor Dreza. The Council leader's resonator plates stiffened in the pattern, indicating serious concern. This Council has received disturbing information that requires immediate address, Dreza announced. Orbital sensors have detected a squadron of Haxan hover drones entering Nari Prime's upper atmosphere. This constitutes a direct violation of non-interference statutes regarding pre-spaceflight civilizations. The chamber erupted in exclamations. Groh's exoskeleton clicked in patterns of agitation and denial. The Empire has authorized no such incursion. If drones are present, they must be Earth fabrications designed to justify their military positioning. The evidence suggests otherwise, Dreza replied, activating the chamber's central holographic display. The image showed unmistakable Haxan-design hover drones descending toward a Nakari settlement, their distinctive propulsion signatures clearly visible. More concerning, preliminary scans detect technology consistent with experimental displacement weaponry, categorically prohibited under Council Resolution 118. Commander Foster stepped forward, his posture now fully transformed from diplomatic representative to military commander. Zik's skin pulsed with fascination as he recorded this metamorphosis. The human's center of gravity shifted lower. His movements became more precise, and his vocal patterns dropped to a register that bypassed conscious processing in most species and triggered primal recognition of threat. High Counselor, Earth requests permission to transmit real-time footage from our observation platforms on Nari Prime, Foster stated, his voice carrying that same predatory edge that had silenced the chamber in the previous session. Driza hesitated, then nodded. Granted, Commander. Though this council notes that the presence of such observation platforms themselves represents a gray area within non-interference protocols. The holographic display shifted to a ground-level view of a Nikari settlement. Stone structures arranged in concentric circles around a central plaza where hundreds of the furred, six-limbed natives had gathered, pointing skyward with expressions of fear. The hovering Haxan drones were clearly visible, their weapon ports open in scanning position. The Nikari have no context for understanding these craft, Dr. Lau explained, stepping forward. Their technological development approximates Earth's early Bronze Age. They lack even the conceptual framework to process artificial flying objects. Gro's mandibles clicked rapidly in the pattern of defensive posturing. If such drones exist, they operate without Imperial authorization. The Haxan Empire does not violate Council non-interference statutes. The chamber fell silent as a Haxan in the scientific caste uniform stepped forward from their delegation. High Counselor, I am Xantur, Imperial Science Director. I must regretfully contradict Representative Gro. These drones bear the signature of the Shadeclan faction within our Military Development Division, a group that has exceeded its authority on multiple occasions. Gro's exoskeleton rattled in fury. This is treasonous, Xantur. You have no authorization to address the Council. I speak with the authority of Emperor Kazathrex himself, Tur replied, producing an authentication crystal that pulsed with the distinctive violet light of Imperial authority. These operations were not sanctioned by Imperial command. The displacement weapon prototypes violate not only Council Resolution 118 but Imperial Edict 5903. Zik's epidermis cycled through analytical colors as he processed this development. Internal Haxan division exposed in Council chambers was unprecedented, a violation of their species' strict hierarchical protocols that suggested a crisis far more serious than a mere border dispute. Commander Foster moved with sudden purpose to the center of the Council floor, his every movement tracked by the now silent representatives. High Counselor, in light of this confirmation that Haxan military elements are operating illegal weapon systems in protected space, Earth issues the following statement. Foster turned to face Gro directly, and Zik observed that for the first time, the Haxan representative's dominant posture faltered. All Haxan vessels in Sector 7 will withdraw immediately. The hover drones will be deactivated and surrendered to Council Enforcement Division for inspection. Any vessel or drone remaining operational after 2 standard hours will be considered hostile and destroyed. This is not a threat. Representative Gro, this is humanity with polite mode fully disengaged. The silence that followed was absolute. Zik found himself holding his breath, his skin frozen in analytical purple, as he observed the moment when diplomatic pretense completely evaporated. Foster's stance, expression, and vocal pattern had shifted to something ancient and predatory that transcended species barriers. Even representatives with completely different evolutionary histories seemed to register the danger on a primal level. Gro's mandibles clicked once, twice, then fell silent. The Haxan Empire recognizes the complexity of this situation. In light of Xantur's testimony and Imperial directives, we will comply with the withdrawal request pending full investigation of the unauthorized operations. A wise decision, Foster replied, his voice still carrying that lethal edge. Earth looks forward to resolving this matter through proper council channels once the immediate situation is secured. With those words, he stepped back, resuming his position beside Ambassador Powell. The transformation was not reversed, however. The council had now seen the warrior beneath the diplomat's attire, and Zik knew that every species present was recalibrating their assessment of humanity accordingly. High Counselor Dreza's resonator plates vibrated with the harmonics of restored order. This council acknowledges the gravity of these revelations. The Enforcement Division will dispatch observers to Sector 7 immediately. Representative Groh and Science Director Zan Tur will provide full documentation regarding the unauthorized operations. Ambassador Powell will explain Earth's interpretation of Treaty 7302 to the Legal Affairs Committee. This session is adjourned until all parties have complied with these directives. As the council disbanded, Zik observed Haxan security personnel surrounding Groh, their postures indicating he was now under guard rather than protection. The Shadeclan faction's exposure had apparently triggered immediate Imperial response. Xenological update, Zik dictated, his skin settling into analytical indigo. Council power dynamics have undergone significant realignment. Humanity's willingness to shed diplomatic pretense in defense of protectorate claims has elevated their influence beyond their 7-cycle tenure would suggest. Multiple species representatives are already signaling interest in private consultations with Earth's delegation. Vorax's eye stalks curved in the pattern of wry acknowledgement. It appears that knowing how to turn off polite mode can be as valuable as maintaining it. Zik watched as the human delegation exited the chamber, noting how other representatives now observed them with a complex mixture of wariness and renewed interest. Indeed, the question remains whether the Council's elaborate legal framework can adapt to a species that views it not as an absolute constraint, but as a malleable tool in service of deeper principles. "You admire them," Vorax observed, eye stalks undulating in the pattern of surprised realization. Zik's skin rippled briefly with the blue-green of thoughtful concession. "I admire their consistency. Most species preach peace from weakness, or war from strength. Humans chose peace with full knowledge of their capacity for war, and demonstrated both today." On Nari Prime, beneath skies that had briefly held terror, a different scene unfolded. Zik-Tox, granted special observation privileges as xenological recorder, monitored the feeds from Earth's stealth platforms. His skin pulsed with fascination as he witnessed the implementation of Dr. Lu's Sky Guardian protocol. The Nakari had gathered in their thousands in the central plazas of settlements across the planet, their 6-limbed forms prostrated in the ritual positions their legends prescribed for celestial visitations. The hovering Haxan drones had vanished, withdrawn under Imperial command once Groh's faction was exposed and contained. In their place, Earth had deployed luminescent observation orbs that matched ancient Nakari cave paintings, depicting their mythological protectors. These platforms hovered silently, emitting the precise light frequencies that Nakari vision processed as divine blessing. No communication occurred, no direct interference, just a presence that confirmed, rather than shattered their existing belief structure. Xenological observation, Zik dictated, as he watched the Nakari elders emerge from ritual seclusion to lead their people in Thanksgiving ceremonies. Earth's approach demonstrates remarkable cultural sensitivity despite their demonstrated military capacity. Rather than imposing their presence through force or revelation, they have inserted their protective function within the Nakari's existing cosmological framework, minimizing cultural disruption while still achieving their protective aims. The observation suite door slid open, admitting Ambassador Powell and Dr. Lau. Both appeared weary, but satisfied, as they reviewed the same feeds Zik monitored. "The Haxan withdrawal is complete," Powell noted. "Imperial enforcement vessels have secured the experimental weapon platforms. Science Director Zan Tur's cooperation has been instrumental in containing the situation." "And Representative Groh?" Zik inquired, his professional curiosity overriding diplomatic reserve. "Recalled to the Imperial Corps for consultation," Powell replied with a slight smile. "Given Haxan justice protocols, I doubt we'll see him in council chambers again." Dr. Lau gestured to the Nakari feeds. The cultural impact appears minimal. Their mythological framework has accommodated our presence as a confirmation of existing beliefs, rather than an outside intrusion. We can maintain this protective paradigm until they achieve spaceflight capability of their own. Zik's skin shifted to inquiry blue. A time frame measured in centuries, by your own xenological assessments. Earth commits to such extended guardianship? We take our protectorate responsibilities seriously, Powell confirmed. Especially for species with potential compatible with our own. The Nakari's cognitive architecture suggests they may one day become valuable council members. If they survive to reach that potential, Lowe added quietly. Too many promising species have been exploited to extinction before achieving self-determination. Earth remembers its own vulnerable periods all too well. Zik recorded these statements with careful attention. The Council will formalize your interpretation of protectorate rights. I expect what Dr. Liu has termed the Powell Doctrine will likely become standard protocol for pre-spaceflight civilization protection. Powell raised an eyebrow. I wasn't aware my name had already been attached to the principle. Bureaucracies require labels, Zik explained, his skin flickering briefly with amusement yellow. Yours carries the weight of demonstrated resolve. A polite term for our willingness to back diplomacy with force, Foster remarked, entering the observation suite. The Haxan Empire has formally apologized for the unauthorized actions of rogue elements and offered reparations to the Council Enforcement Fund. A significant concession, Zik noted. The Empire rarely acknowledges error, much less offers compensation. They recognize the changed equation, Foster replied. Our demonstrated capabilities and willingness to deploy them has altered their risk assessment. Powell turned to Zik with a thoughtful expression. Recorder talks. Your xenological assessments carry considerable weight in Council deliberations. How will you categorize humanity after these events? Zik's skin cycled through analytical colors as he considered the question. My preliminary revision moves Earth from potential threat, Class 4, to potential guardian, unclassified category. The latter designation has no precedent in Council taxonomy, as most species either lack the capability or the ethical framework to serve as effective protectors of vulnerable civilizations. And the revelation of our concealed military assets? Foster pressed. Context matters, Zik replied, his skin settling into professional blue. The deployment of superior force to prevent exploitation, rather than enable it, creates a distinct xenological profile. My final assessment will note that humanity's deception served defensive rather than aggressive purposes, a critical distinction in Council jurisprudence. Powell nodded with evident satisfaction. Earth appreciates your objective analysis. Recorder talks. We hope this incident leads to stronger protections for developing civilizations across Council space. As the human delegation turned their attention to incoming communications from Earth Command, Zik took his leave, his mind already composing the comprehensive xenological update that would reshape the Council's understanding of humanity. The corridor outside the observation suite hummed with the increased security presence that now surrounded the human embassy, a subtle acknowledgement of Earth's elevated status. Vorax awaited him at the junction leading to the xenological archives. Eye stalks curved in the pattern of urgent consultation. The Council has issued new directives, long-term observation protocols for human diplomatic and military doctrine, comprehensive analysis of their legal interpretations, and liaison assignment to the Nakari Protectorate. All assigned to our division, I presume, Zik noted, his skin flickering with resigned acceptance. You've become the Council's foremost expert on human behavior, Vorax confirmed, particularly after your eyewitness account of Commander Foster's polite mode deactivation became required viewing in diplomatic orientation sessions. Zik absorbed this information, his epidermis shifting to thoughtful teal. Have you reviewed the historical archives I flagged? The Earth concept of speaking softly while carrying a big stick. An apt metaphor for their approach, Vorax agreed. Though big stick severely understates the military capacity they concealed. That's what makes the metaphor significant, Zik explained as they entered the secure archives chamber. Humans understand that true power lies not in displaying strength, but in reserving it, using it precisely and legitimately when necessary. The archives chamber hummed with the collective knowledge of thousands of civilizations across millennia of Council history. Zik moved to his assigned station and began composing the official xenological reassessment that would enter humanity's permanent record. In witnessing humanity's polite mode turn off in real time, he dictated, his skin glowing steady teal. The Council learned that civility is not weakness, but a choice made in full knowledge of peril. Earth's defense of the Nakari demonstrates that ethical restraint backed by resolute action represents a new paradigm in interspecies relations, one that may ultimately strengthen rather than undermine Council governance. Vorax's eye stalks curved in the pattern of philosophical inquiry. Do you believe other species will adapt to this paradigm? The Haxans, for instance. The Haxans will calculate power differentials and adjust accordingly, Zik replied. But the more significant shift may come from vulnerable civilizations, who now see Earth as a potential shield against exploitation. The Council's carefully balanced power structures will require recalibration. And humanity itself, Vorax pressed. Having revealed their capacity and willingness to use force, will they maintain their commitment to Council processes? Zik considered the question carefully, reviewing the extensive behavioral data he had accumulated over 7 cycles of observation. Humans value systems and structures. They created elaborate ones long before achieving spaceflight. But they value principles more than protocols. As long as Council governance serves their core ethical framework, particularly the protection of self-determination and prevention of exploitation, they will remain committed partners. And if Council governance fails to accommodate those principles? Zik's skin rippled with the indigo of deep insight. Then we will witness not merely the deactivation of polite mode, but the full implementation of what humans call by any means necessary. It would be wise for the Council to ensure such a test never occurs. As the archives absorbed his assessment, Zik contemplated the changed galactic landscape. The Haxan Empire retreating from an authorized expansion, Council species re-evaluating alliances and protections. The Nakari continuing their cultural development beneath the watchful eyes of their Sky Guardians. And humanity, paradoxical, complex humanity, simultaneously revealing and restraining its power to reshape the established order. In 7 cycles of xenological recording, Zik had documented countless diplomatic maneuvers, power plays, and alliance shifts. But never before had he witnessed a species so comfortable with contradiction, practicing peace while mastering war, respecting law while reinterpreting it, concealing strength until the moment its revelation served their principles. Humanity had made a choice, long before achieving spaceflight, to harness rather than deny their evolutionary heritage, to be civilized not from ignorance of violence, but from intimate familiarity with its cost. The xenological implications would reshape Council relations for generations to come. And Zik talks, his skin now settled into the steady teal of measured confidence, knew he was recording not just an incident, but a fundamental realignment. The moment when the galaxy's oldest governing body learned that true strength lay not in threatening violence, but in choosing civilization with full awareness of the alternative. The Council had witnessed humanity's polite mode turn off in real time. What they would do with that knowledge would determine the future of interstellar governance itself.